Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of Homestead Help. Our topic this month is critter chatter. We want to talk to you about everything regarding any kind of critter that you might have on your homestead. And we're going to talk to you about everything from your domestic animals all the way up to what kind of livestock you might have on your property and why. Maybe walk you through some of our decision processes on why we went with certain animals and why we didn't go with other ones, all the way up through how we deal with even processing and using our animals on our property, especially in the presence of children. So to start us off, let me first introduce Pepper Bradford from Pepper Plants. And
Pepper's plants
also,
there, Jared, plural.
excuse me.
That's right.
And we've got Tommy and Patty Alderman from Alderman Farms. We'd like
Howdy,
to
y'all.
excuse Margie Fuller from our broadcast tonight. She just had a prior obligation, wasn't able to make it with us, but she'll catch up with us next time, I'm sure. So to start this off, we thought we'd pass the mic over here to Tommy and Patty and let Tommy talk a little bit about domestic animals. Tommy, you were telling us before the show how when you were active duty law enforcement, you saw some things about having a dog in the home that was beneficial. Can you talk about that?
Yeah,
Neat.
absolutely. I spent almost 18 years, right at 18 years, almost 20 years in law enforcement, and in my entire career, I never worked a burglary call, not one, where dogs lived, and where there was a yappy dog or a vocal dog. Now, I'm not saying that they never happened. I'm just telling you, in 18 years of law enforcement, I never worked a call where a dog lived. I've got to tell you, my favorite story about an almost burglary where some dogs lived. It was a Sunday afternoon. We got a call from some folks who'd gotten home from dinner in town after church, and they said, we left our windows open and somebody came in our house. So I went out there, and when they said they left their windows open, that's what they meant. They didn't mean unlocked. They meant open. No screen, anything. Just windows raised completely up and on the front of the house. And when you looked into the house, the room into which the open window led was an entertainment room. It was filled with television sets and video cameras and stereos and just myriad of electronic instruments. Well, it had rained either that morning or the night before, and so it was kind of muddy outside that window. And when you looked inside the window, there were footprints in a spot, and you could tell where the feet had kind of stutter-stepped around, but they never took a single step. Obviously, the guy landed in there, looked in a couple of directions, shuffled his feet, and went right back out the window. And about the time I was figuring that out, I realized why. Because tearing into there from another room were 11 Yorkshire Terriers. None of them could have weighed more than 3 pounds, but there were 11 of them, and they were yapping furiously. And I got the biggest, it's in my entire career, one of my favorite calls. That those 11 Yorkshire Terriers kept that, and by the way, nothing was missing.
Well, I certainly have to agree with you about having a dog on the property. Now, I realize not everybody can have a dog, but even the story Tommy just shared right there, just a little yippy Yorkshire Terrier. My parents had Yorkshire Terriers. Can be enough to discourage somebody from doing something. But, something that we had, well, of course, we've got goats now, but we had some other goats previously. And we had a problem where some wild dogs or pack of dogs running through the woods got into our goat pen and killed our goats. We had 2 males at the time that we were using just obviously for eating up brush, and went out there and we heard all this commotion because we had a horse as well. And the horse started making the noise. We didn't hear anything about the goats, and my wife saw the horse getting attacked, and she went out there to, she dealt with it, and just say that. And now we've got a Great Pyrenees, a livestock guardian dog, and don't have any problem with that. I mean, you have anything that doesn't belong on this property even come within view or sound, and she's yapping away at it to scare it off. So I think domestics are pretty great. Pepper, you?
I was always taught that
Go ahead, Pepper.
I was always taught that the best way to protect your property is to have two dogs: a big dog to scare people off, and then a small yappy dog to wake up the big dog when someone comes around. It seems to work. That's what we have. We have one dog that's ancient, and she never gets off the porch, and she wakes up the big dog.
Well, I tell you,
that's exactly right. And that's the combination we have as well. There's the small dogs inside, and but a little twist on that is what I need them to do is wake me up.
Yeah.
You know, we're a good ways off the road, and one way that we kind of find out who's on the property or whatnot is we've got one of those driveway alarms. You know, you hit the motion sensor and the alarm in the house goes off, and it's actually kind of funny because our house dog Shannon, if she hears the alarm, she goes to the front window. And she will sit there and watch. And if she recognizes what comes up the window, whether it's my vehicle or my sister's vehicle, or anything that she knows, oh, that's okay, mommy and daddy don't care if that's here, she'll be quiet. But if it's someone that she doesn't recognize, she starts yapping like it's World War III. It's just the funniest thing in the world. She's basically like our second alarm. The one goes off to let us know something's here, and the second alarm goes off to tell us whether we care about it or not.
We have one of those driveway alarms, but unfortunately the cows set it off all the time, so we had to get rid of it.
Yeah, that would get old. Well, what do y'all think about
when we get offline, Jared? I may want some information about that. That's pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll pass that along.
Hey, but while we're talking about alarms, just a quick note that guinea fowl are also known to be great watchdogs, as are geese. Mm-hmm. The great description I read about guinea fowl in that regard, I think it was in a book. I can't remember the title of the book or who wrote it. But he made the comment that that guinea fowl will sound the alarm at anything unusual, and then he said, and they have a very liberal definition of the word unusual.
Well, I've had guinea fowl, and I'll say a couple things about them. Number one, they are loud. You can't miss them. They make a very unique sound. It's annoying in the sense, just like if you're not used to living on a farm, that if you're not used to a farm that raises or has horses, and you show up there, you might find that the scent is unusual, and so it would bother you. But if you live there, it might smell great to you, or you might not even notice it. In the same sense, guinea fowl make an obnoxious noise, but if you're used to it, it's not obnoxious to the point of annoying you. It's just you just want to tell them, hey, hush up, that's fine. But they do have a very liberal sense of unusual. They will raise the alarm at you walking out your own front door. But more importantly, I think, is their morbidity rate. They die like there's no tomorrow. I don't know if everybody who's ever raised them has experienced that, but especially the little Keats, the babies, they don't live very easily. We've had 25 little Keats, and we're lucky that 6 months later we've got 10 of them. And they just, for no good reason, it's not a matter of coons getting to them or bad health or poor care or anything like that. It's just their morbidity rate is terrible. And from the hatcheries we've ordered from before, that's the kind of thing that we've heard is just terrible morbidity rates. They expect that they have a hatching coming up, but then they'll call you and say, sorry, we can't ship that out. They didn't make it.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that's exactly why we don't have any now, is because they didn't survive and they didn't replicate. So we've thought several times about getting a new batch, but I'm really, with the whole idea toward sufficiency, I hate to think that, every time we want a batch of guineas, we'll have to go buy another batch of guineas.
Mm-hmm. What about the other typical domestic animal, a cat? What do y'all think about cats on your properties?
Or on your countertop. What is that behind you?
Probably a cat or two or three.
That's hygienic.
That is the cat countertop, rest assured.
Oh, well, okay. As long as you're not chopping vegetables on it.
No, sir.
We have tons of
I was
cats.
raised a dog person, and we don't have cats, and I like the idea of cats, but not in practicality. I can't stand cats. It all stems from when we had little kids and dogs in the house. Dogs are so useful. So when kids drop food on the floor, hey, look, and the dog clean the floor up. Matter of fact, food doesn't hit the floor. With the cats could care less if food falls on the floor. You tell them to do something, they sort of look at you like they're gonna eat your face off later on, but they don't. So I like the idea of cats because it would certainly cut down on the mouse population there in the barn where we keep our grain. But as of yet, cats don't seem to be an option for us.
Yeah, I'm not a cat lover either, but I do think they are useful on the homestead, and I'm glad we have cats. I'm just not glad we have as many cats as we have because they mass produce.
We don't know.
We
How
don't
many
we
is
don't
too
know.
We don't know.
I would say over
How
two
many we
or
have now?
three. Over two or three is two or three is enough for me. We have over 20 cats right now
Do we
on
have
our
that many
property.
right now?
Hmm.
Yeah, we've got a
Yeah.
bunch.
The
We have-
very
Most of them
fact
are
that you
kittens.
don't know how many points to the fact that it may be too many. If you can't adequately
Yes,
describe
you're
how
right.
many
Definitely
you've
too
got.
many.
Do you
Yeah.
feed
You're
all
right.
20-ish?
Well,
Uh,
a little bit.
a little bit. They fend for themselves. They get a little goat milk,
And they
and
get leftovers
they
and
get-
dog food.
in fact, they get birds. One of them had a bird on the back deck the other day. We have no mice.
Yeah,
Zero
no
mice.
No mice.
Oh, well, I was going to ask how the
Um,
mice population is. I guess it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't
it's
have any
good.
mice.
My daughter will be bringing kittens to Walmart Saturday to give away, bobtail kittens. So
Yeah, they're bobtails. So
So-
Brookhaven Walmart Saturday will make you a deal. Really, you can't beat the price. Zero.
That's right. Get 2 or 3 or as many as you can carry home.
You know,
Yeah.
you were comparing cats and dogs a minute ago. I like our cats. I'm a dog guy. There's no question. But our cats are friendly for the most part. I like them. But and they pretend to like me. That's the thing with cats. Somebody said years ago, and I've used it 100 times. Dogs have masters. Cats have servants.
Yeah, we
And
have
they're
talked about the
probably
idea
always
before, but
plotting to kill you.
yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, we've talked about it before. I think that if I could be convinced that the cat was going to be in the barn, outside, and be maintenance free, and I wouldn't have to necessarily care about it or see it or feed it, just have it be out there and do its thing, I'd be okay with having a cat. I have heard a lot of stories of homesteaders who say that you can't go wrong. You can't have a barn unless you have cats in the barn to keep the rodents at bay. So that's one. It's on my list. It's not very high on my list though.
Well, I'm not sure what to tell you how to start. If you just get a kitten and raise it in the barn, and forbid the children from interacting with it.
yeah.
We've got most of our cats live on our back deck. That's their primary base of operations. However, it's interesting. We have one mama cat. She's a yellow cat, and she's very friendly. She's not wild at all. But when it's time for her to have babies, she's had babies twice. And both times she goes way out. She goes out in the woods or she finds a wood pile somewhere, and she has those kittens out there, and she keeps them out there. And so her kittens are wild as a buck, and they don't come up on the deck hardly at all.
Well, they'll sneak up at night to eat the food, but that's the kind of cat I like, the kind that stays away, that don't try and get in your lap or rub on you and all that. But I've had one pet cat since we've lived here, and my kids were just shocked. They saw me outside with it in my lap petting it, and they were all standing at the window, couldn't believe Mama was touching a cat.
You're being
One of the
you're
things
being video bombed.
Yes, one of the issues that we have with any domestic animal that we try to have being a working animal, because we thought about getting the livestock protection dogs or have the cat in the barn, is that we have the indoor dogs, indoor outdoor. We have a doggy door, and animals that we get that we had this great intention of, we're going to leave it outside. Quickly learn, hey, I can follow the other animals and go lay on the couch at night instead of laying outside. We've even actually had the cow come inside. And the sheep tried to come inside last week. Because the doggy door is the great, equalizer amongst the animal kingdom. Hey, those dogs get to go in there. We're going to follow them in. The cow in the laundry room was was an interesting experience. It wasn't the doggy door, but still, that's my fear with any other animal that we get, is that they're not going to do the job I want them to do, because I'll find them in the morning on the couch asleep at the doggy door. I guess you get rid of the doggy door. But no, then
And you would.
Yeah, they'd
Yeah.
be there. And I've told you this before, Pepper, but it bears repeating. If that cow ever gets in that utility room again and you do not film it, I'll never speak to you again.
Well, we have it on still film. That was the reason that the cow came in. Hey, look, the cow's on the back deck, and so the wife runs and grabs the camera, leaving the door open. And by the time she got back to the cow had wandered into the laundry room and was drinking out of the dog bowl. We all thought it was funny until I realized there's not enough room in the laundry room for the cow to turn around. So if she comes in, I'm gonna have to walk her all the way through the living room, kitchen, dining room to turn her around to get her back out. And that's just more nature than I need inside my house at this point, or my wife for that matter. That may be grounds for sleeping on the couch for a while.
Hey guys, sorry I walked away on you there for a minute. I missed most of the cat conversation. I tried to catch what I could. In case it wasn't mentioned, I'll tell you one of the benefits that we get from having cats, other than a happy wife, which is probably the reason we have cats. But anyway, is the insect control. I mean, we've got a big flock of ducks, but the cats will literally fight to get out the door at night so that they can go insect hunting, and they'll just chase down all the extra grasshoppers and whatnot. And we have still got ample supplies of insects to do the natural ecological thing that we need insects to do, but they help keep down the control there. So I think there's a benefit for having a cat or two around for that as well. What kind of topic did we get ourselves into? Where are we at, guys and lady?
Domestic animals.
So domestic
animals. As far as I know, cats.
Well, just the two, right? Cats and dogs. The only two domestic animals there are, as far as I know.
Well, what do you guys think? Is there, Pepper? I'm going to start with you. What animal outside of a domestic animal did you guys have first, and was it for, just that's what came up, or you had a plan in mind, or what happened?
Well, the first thing we got outside of a domestic animal was her. Now, her name is Mo. And here's the story behind Mo. Last year, I was getting stressed out about my property and trying to keep the grass clipped. I've got 3 acres, and I could only clip it with my tractor because they couldn't do it with a lawnmower. Someone had plowed up the property. I won't say who it was, but they never got around to disking it and smoothing it flat. So it's just all ruts and furrows. And so it can only be mowed with my tractor, which is my grandfather's 1948 farmall. So I'm the one that can do it. And I didn't have time to, full-time job, taking care of my family, plus trying to start and run Pepper's plants. So I said, I'm going to buy some animal to eat my grass for me, even if it costs me money. I'd rather spend money on hay in the wintertime than spend money on gas for the lawnmower in the summertime. And again, even if it costs me money in grain and all this other stuff, just the sheer stress-free factor of not having to deal with the grass. So I did some research, and I didn't have a fence at the time for any of my 3 acres. So the 3 animals were sheep, goats, and cows. And I had sheep growing up, or my brothers and sister had sheep for their 4-H project. And our experience with sheep is, well, sheep will eat the grass, not the weeds. They'll, if you let them just graze what they want to graze, they're going to leave all the weeds behind. People say get goats. Folks around here are crazy for goats, or just maybe crazy. But they said, hey, goats are great. Goats will do anything, but goats will escape. Goats are, if you're on Alcatraz, you want a goat with you as far as finding a way to get out. I looked into it. The fence in 3 acres all at one time for a goat was just going to be too expensive. So then I looked around, and for $200, I can get an electric fence to keep a cow. And the cow seemed at the time, that's crazy. That's overkill, buying a cow for this property. But we got it strictly for financial considerations. The milk came later. With our first reason for buying a cow at all was for her mouth. We named her Mo because that's her job. And of course, we spelled it the correct Cajun way of MEAUX. But we got the cow. We quickly realized that 3 acres is too much for one animal, so we got another cow, and then we got some sheep, and I still have to mow the grass, which is just a travesty. My heart weeps whenever I have to mow the grass. But until we can have enough animals to eat all the grass, well, I have to. But that was our main consideration when we first made a foray into non-domestic animals. Was they are um, they serve a purpose. Joel Salatin is a big proponent of, if you've got a job to do, see if you can find an animal to do it for you. Don't plow up that ground, put pigs there. So for us, don't cut the grass, buy an animal, let the animal cut the grass, and fertilize all at the same time. So that's how we first started getting into what you see wandering on behind me.
Okay. All right, Alderman Farms, the pair of you. How about your first foray out of the domestic world? What was that all about?
Well, I don't know if you saw going around Facebook the last few days. I don't think it's a YouTube video, but there's what was the name of it? One Girl's Rant, or something like that, and it's a funny little parody thing where this girl is talking about the hazards of backyard chickens, and she described them as a gateway livestock. And that was so us, because we started with chickens. We weren't living here at Alderman Farms. We were in Louisiana, just outside of a subdivision. So we had, what did we have?
12. We had 2.5 acres.
2.5 acres. And we started with 12 buffs, right? 12 buff Orpingtons, built a nice coop, and so that we started for the egg production. And we enjoyed that so much. And that was back during the time when milk prices were really starting to spike for the first time that we noticed. And we thought, this is stupid. If we're going to pay this much money for milk, we should be getting what we pay for. In other words, we understood that getting milk goats was not going to necessarily lower the cost of milk for us, but dollar for dollar, we would be getting a much better product in our milk. Because we're of the opinion that milk you buy in the store is basically worthless. It's just sort of milk flavored water, if you will. And so we went, chickens first. I don't remember how long we had chickens before we took the plunge in goats.
Not long.
Jared, tell me when I talk too long, but I got to tell you the story about how we got into goats. We decided together that we were going to do the dairy goat thing. So we said, okay, let's find one. Or no. I said I've got to taste the milk first. And everybody, if you get nothing else from this show tonight, write this down. Don't go to the grocery store and get goat milk to find out what goat milk tastes like. We did that, and it was the most foul liquid I've ever put in my mouth. I literally couldn't swallow it. I had to spit it out. I'll tell you why in a minute. I learned later what I was tasting. So that was the end of that. Well, some period of time later, months I think, a friend of Patty was at a friend's house who was also homeschoolers like we are, for something totally unrelated, and they had goats, and she related that story to her friend, and she was like, oh, girl, no, come with me. And she gave her some of her fresh milk, and Patty called me and said, look, that's not what it tastes like. And I said, okay, I trust you. Let's try again. And long story short, we found a goat and went out there, and it was kind of funny. The little man brought me, we were looking at the goat about to make the deal, and I told him, I said, sir, I've got to taste this goat milk before I buy it. And he said, okay, fine. He went inside, got a wash rag and a glass, came out and cleaned the udder real good and squirted some off, and then squirted about half a glass full. And he reached the glass out to me, and he pulled it back, and he said, I got to warn you. And I thought, oh, no, here we go. And he said, it's going to make you want to throw rocks at cows. and he gave it to me, and it was just it was like nectar. It was the sweetest, it was very, very good, and we've been hooked ever since. And of course, since that time, we've added Jersey cow.
There you go.
Yeah, I was going to say, since that time, we've added, because, and I'm sure we can talk, I don't know how specific you're going to want to get later, Jared, but with goats, you don't get a lot of cream, and we can explain why that is, and I hope you'll remind me to explain why that goat milk tastes bad in the store. But we added a Jersey. We've got two. We've got a Jersey heifer and a young Jersey that just left here today to go to my cousin's house to get bred. So.
Yeah, and my favorite now is Jersey cow milk. So I do like that better than goat milk.
Well, after
Either way
after
for
the
me.
after the last show, Pepper and I were kind of talking back and forth, and Pepper, I'm going to call you out on the carpet here. You said you didn't know why anybody would ever want a goat, and I kind of thought about that a little bit, and yeah, you did. I'm gonna say, I don't have you on recording, but I've got it right here.
I don't recall that. That's an unconfirmed report.
Anyway, the yeah, I started thinking about it, and I think there's probably a couple things for the viewers out there that if you're thinking about getting into an animal that might produce milk for you down the road, or right now you're looking for something just to help keep the hedge trimmed back, whatever the case might be, I think there's probably a couple considerations, and you guys jump in on this when you're ready. I think on the cow side, let's talk about milk. On the cow side, you're talking about getting an awful lot of milk, so either you've got to be ready to use it or be able to give it away or produce another product with it. Like Pepper's got a great series of cheese making videos that he's been doing, and I found those pretty interesting because he talks about all the different processes of where, you know, hey, at this stage, then this part could be used for your whipping cream, or we're going to take this and go do this with it. And he kind of really breaks down for you all the things that you could do with the cow milk. Whereas on the goat side, you're not going to get near as much milk per day, and I am not entirely understanding all the different ways that you could use the goat milk, but I do know that it does not separate, and I'm not going to get into all the fancy terms because I'll screw them up, but it does not separate as well as, well at all, really, like the cow's milk does. Now, I've seen people make cottage cheese just as easily as Pepper did in his videos,
Yeah.
using the goat milk, but I'm not sure just how many other varieties you can really get into with a goat. The I think probably the biggest, you know, I had to go with a goat if you would ever use that when it comes to milk is lactose intolerance. I have no experience with this, but everything I have read says that if you have lactose intolerance, you may be able to drink goat's milk if you're unable to tolerate cow's milk.
Well, it also has to do with pasteurization.
Okay.
Pasteurizing kills all the lactose enzyme that's in the raw milk that lactose intolerant people can't process. So pasteurized milk across the board is the number one problem with lactose intolerance. I've heard that before about goat milk as well, but I've also heard people who say they can't drink pasteurized cow milk, but they can drink raw cow milk. It's because of that. But anyway,
that's okay. That's a good point. Yeah. I didn't know. I didn't think about that. Now, if you're talking
Jared,
about, go ahead, Patty.
The main difference that I've found with the goat milk versus the cow milk, as far as everything you can do with it, is that, you know, the cream, you'll get a very, very small layer of cream at the top, hardly enough to skim to make butter with. But I have made the different cheeses with my goat milk and with my cow milk, which I don't make a huge variety of cheeses, but I'm able to do that with the goat milk as well as the cow milk. It's very rich because, like, the cream don't separate. It's all mixed in the milk, so it still makes very good cheese.
Okay.
And an additional benefit to goat milk, potential benefit to goat milk that is not available for cow milk and from cow milk. And don't panic, Pepper. We have cows. We drink cow milk. But you may have heard that honey from a local beehive will help you with your allergies. We found the same to be true with goat milk. The reason being, cows primarily eat grass. They will eat browse, meaning bushes and whatnot if they're available, especially if they don't have a lot of grass. Goats prefer the browse to the grass, and goats make their milk out of the same thing that bees make their honey out of, basically, the same type of plants and whatnot. And you know, I'm not offering scientific evidence, but we can say anecdotally that the first year that we had goats, we drank nothing but goat milk, no store-bought milk for a year. And we had, I don't remember how old our kids were, but they were all small. So we had a house with 4 kids in it, and for the last 10 months of that year, after we had been drinking nothing but goat milk for 2 months, we did not have a runny nose in our house with 4 small kids for 10 months.
Yeah.
And I attribute that anecdotally to the allergy remediating
Inoculation.
properties of inoculation
Mm-hmm.
of the goat milk.
You know, I
And
think
honestly, my kids haven't had a problem with poison ivy and stuff like that. I mean, they may have gotten it a little bit, but none have been very allergic. And I used to be very allergic to poison ivy as a young child. And moving here, I haven't had poison ivy.
Is that because the goats eat the poison ivy, or because the goat milk inoculates you?
Well, because the goats eat the poison ivy and it kind of inoculates you, like kind of like getting allergy shots. From what I understand, that's what it's like.
I mean, we've read that, and we're just, again, anecdotally, it seems to bear out.
Mm-hmm.
If we still have poison ivy, they don't get it all. Poison ivy is on our property, and our kids are in the woods, especially the boys, in the woods all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we've only ever had one or two very mild cases.
Yeah, mild cases
of poison ivy exposure. That could be coincidence. Maybe we just don't.
And maybe I've changed. I used to get it as a child playing in the woods, but I've not gotten it living here in Mississippi, going in the woods, working or anything. I haven't gotten poison ivy.
In 13 years.
So.
I think the next thing I want to talk on this is Pepper touched it, and that's kind of the area that you have to maintain your animal. And I'm seeing this now, trying to open up more pasture area for our goats. I'm having to put in 4, 5, or 6 strands of electric fencing to try to keep them in, because like Pepper mentioned, goats are just ornery, and they will try to get in and out of everything no matter what it is. I've had goats try to clear, and I do mean try to clear a 5-foot fence. I had to go get it. It got a leg woven inside of one of the cattle panel, and it was hanging on the other side. So that was kind of a scary thing. So there's if you're looking for a big area, it stands to reason to me that the cow makes more sense, because Pepper, you say that could be done with just one strand of electric fencing. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, I've seen basically any animal, once they are adjusted to the electric fence, all you need is one strand at nose height for whatever height the animal is. I do a lot of watching on BBC. There's a pig farmer over there who does some documentaries. He keeps all his pigs in with one strand of wire that's, I don't know, 1.5 feet off the ground, because it's at nose height. With our sheep, we learned real quick that wool is a great insulator, because the sheep were just leaning up against the barbed wire, against the electric fence, and nothing. And we took their noses and stuck them to the electric fence, and it was the funniest thing you'd ever seen, because they all jumped about 6 feet in the air. But they learned right quick when the nose touched the fence to stop, and they don't go near it again. So one strand, once they know what it is, and once they can see it, one issue with the single strand is hard to see, but once they know it's there and know what it is, that one strand of electric fence at nose height will keep pretty much any animal, in my experience. And I don't have any experience with goats, but sheep and cow and dogs.
I was fixing to say, Jared, do you want to correct him on goats, or shall I?
I didn't go with that. I know nothing about goats.
Well, but now my other side of this coin is to say, not all of the viewers out there are going to have 5, 10, or 20 acres. Some of them might only have 1 acre. Since both of you have cows, I'll go over to Tommy and Patty on this one. If you were to have 1 cow, what's the smallest acreage you would want to keep that on to be able to actually? I'm guessing that a cow could eat an area straight to dirt like most other animals if the area was too small, or that they would beat it up with their hooves. What's the smallest area you would keep a cow on, Tommy?
Go ahead.
3 acres, whatever.
I don't know. Pepper was saying he has 3, and that's what our pasture is.
With
3
beef,
acres.
it's 1 to 3.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard
extension
agents say with beef cow, it's 1 acre, 1 cow for 3 acres. That's beef, though, right there.
Yeah, I would like to see, especially a dairy, having babies and being milked and everything. I would like to see them, at least 1 cow, have 1 to 3 acres. Our pasture is about 3 acres that we keep her on, but we also have other areas that we allow them to go in that has brush and has more grass, and so we're kind of doing a rotational grazing right now with them, and we like that because one area can grow up while they're eating at another area. And they say that it helps with parasites, that if you have 3 grazing areas and you rotate them, that it helps for them not to have the parasites so bad. And I think it's proven true here, because we really haven't had issue with intestinal worms. with our animals.
No, not at all. And the answer to that question might vary depending on how much you're willing to supplement your animal's feed, how much hay you're able to provide, and how much grain you're wanting to provide, and all that. So, but obviously, from a homesteading standpoint and a cost effectiveness standpoint, the more I would say, if I didn't have 3 acres under fence, I wouldn't have a cow. You know, if I wouldn't do it with 2, I wouldn't do it with 1. That's just me, because to me it just doesn't seem like enough. But so obviously, as far as acreage is concerned, under fence for a cow, more is better.
And you know, we try to feed as little as possible, so you know that's why we want more.
We started out last year. One of the benefits of the electric fence system is you can add to it very easily. We were using the little plastic step-in post and the yellow and black braided plastic wire. And so every week, you know, or 2 weeks to get my paycheck, I'd run by the co-op. I'd pick up another roll and 5 more posts. And so last summer, every 2 weeks, Mo's fence would expand by about 100 square feet or so. And so over the course of about 2 months, we eventually got her from a quarter acre to a half acre to, after about 5 months, the full 3 acres. That was I thought one of the beauties of having the electric fence system is that I could start small and add to it, whereas the barbed wire fence is sort of, if you don't have all this stuff at one time, you're not going to do it little by little. So that was a big benefit of the electric fence. And with our cow, when we got her, there was so much grass and weeds. The Johnson grass was over my 10-year-old's head, and so there was plenty of it in that one little area. And ironically, we found that Johnson grass is the thing. It's like ice cream to them. We actually have no more Johnson grass on the property because they have eaten it. We're actually not planting Johnson grass to have to them for like a dessert, but they cleared she cleared the area pretty quickly. But again, I was moving her because we had a small area, and maybe that's the thing. Maybe they didn't have a small area. At one time, we would move her on the new grass every few days as she ate up. So I guess she covered 3 acres over the course of about a month.
All right, I'm going to try to move us along a little bit here. Pepper, what were you trying to show us over there?
Oh, this is 1 gallon of doe's milk, and I don't know if you can see the cream line in there. Is that showing up?
No.
No?
No.
No, it's not showing
No.
up. Right about here is see that line right there?
Vaguely now, yes.
Yeah, that's the cream. Of course, this is significant. This is a mark of a Jersey cow. They have more cream than pretty much any other breed, and the cream is useful for all manner of things, including just straight eating. But that's one of the considerations with different breeds of cow. Now, when I said the extension tells me 3 acres for 1 cow, that's different depending on the breed and the type. We've got dairy cows, which in order to have them produce more milk, we do supplement their grain. Kind of a vicious cycle we've gotten into. We're giving them a little bit of grain, and then we had some folks. So we're giving away the milk. We've become very popular at church. So more people want it, so we gave her more grain, and more people. So now we're giving her lots of grain so we can have more milk to give away to people. It's kind of an odd situation. But anyway, a Jersey cow is smaller than your Holstein, your black and white, your Chick-fil-A cow, if you will. And as a result, they need, I would say, probably 1 to 1.5 acres per cow for a Jersey. If you got a Dexter, which is about half the size of a Jersey, Dexter's not but 3.5, 4 feet, Tommy, I can't remember about a call. Those probably 1 acre per cow. You get a Angus bull, or you're obviously going to need 5 acres per cow. So it all depends on your property and your breed of cow that you want.
What was over in the field you were trying to show us there earlier, Pepper?
Oh, those are my sheep. Did you not see the sheep?
Yeah, I think Tommy was talking, so it didn't really come up on top, so I couldn't really tell what they were.
The sheep are a supplemental mouth to mow with.
Now I know one of you has this, so I don't. You guys are just going to have to remind me which one of you does this. But Rob Bob's joining us from down under there in Australia, and he says he had a potty lamb. I guess that's how you pronounce that. Laugh at me if you want. That used to come and eat his dried cat food. So, don't one of you keep lambs?
Yes, that's what we've got. The 4 lambs I was trying to show. Well, we got them mainly for a 4-H project, but we're going to try breeding them, and we're going to try eating them. That may be more traumatic than my children are willing to try, but at least now, in theory, that's the goal. We're not going to eat these. We're going to eat the next generation. These have names.
Sure. Well, that's a good point. We talked about this before the show too, and Pepper, you were interested how I handle dealing with animals that we turn into sustenance on the table and how the kids deal with that. So just to touch it real generally, number one, we don't mince words with the kids. I mean, we're not brute force honest and show them pictures of terrible slaughterhouses and how animals are treated and whatnot, but we talk to them about how we deal with our animals, and do they think that we treat our animals nicely, or do they think that we're mean to our animals, and would they rather our animals be out there in the woods eating off the bugs and off the grass seeds, or would they rather if we took our animals and put them in a big metal building with concrete and metal cages and fed them specific portions of food every single day? And of course they'd rather if our animals were out in the open and so on. And we make sure that if we put a piece of food on the table, they understand what it is. They know that a hamburger comes from a cow. They know that all these different things. They know that a hot dog is a lot of different animals. They understand the different things that
animals and other things.
And other things, yes.
Things.
So
and we don't want to know what's in the hot dog.
Yeah, it's probably best just to give up it. But I think that's just the main point there is they understand that chicken on the table isn't just chicken that's on the table. It's actually the chicken that was outside. And the way that we separate between, okay, well, this is chicken mommy and daddy bought at the store, or oh golly, that was my favorite hen, is that we make sure that there are boundaries set up. So we have some of our animals that are pets, and some of our animals that we don't give them, we don't name them. That's the big thing. Is if an animal on our property has a name other than dinner or supper or yummy, then it's going to be dinner at some point, most likely. So if like we've got Cinnamon, that's a rabbit of ours. One of our ducks is named Daisy. All those animals, we know that we're not going to eat them, and it gives the kids, at least from what we've noticed, it gives them an anchor, something that they can hold on to. They know that if we ever put a rabbit on the table in front of them, it wasn't Cinnamon, because they know that little fluffy Cinnamon's over there doing just fine. They've got something they can go pet, but they can still enjoy rabbit. I mean, literally, the kids get more excited when I put something on the table and I say, hey, this is, hey, guys, that's one of the rabbits and lettuce out of our garden and whatever. And they literally go, yay! They're all excited that it's something that's off our property. I've put stuff on table that wasn't from our property, and they'll get all excited thinking, oh, yummy, it's duck. And I'll say, no, that's a roast Daddy bought at the store. And they literally go, oh, man. I mean, it excites them that they're a part of the process in a good way. And I know some people might take that in a morbid way. Oh my gosh, your kids are happy you're killing animals or something, but it's not. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with understanding and being a part of the process of, I took care of this animal and now this animal is taking care of me. And I think that if you can establish that understanding, talk to your children, don't try to make it something you sneak in on them, and start small. I mean, isn't that the advice that we always hear and we always give? Start small. If you decide that a backyard chicken is what you can start with, then start with eggs and understand what's different about your eggs and the eggs that are at the store, and go into that, and then you kind of just step them into it. So your first experience doesn't have to be going out and slaughtering the Jersey cow because you need meat for the winter. It can be starting with the egg.
And I would probably recommend starting off with some form of poultry because, let's be honest, it's for, at least for kids, it's probably much more palatable to, no pun intended, to eat something that's not cute like a chicken, as opposed to, you wouldn't want to start off with a fluffy bunny as first supper. You want to start off with an ugly chicken.
That's True too. Take the cuteness factor out of it to begin with if you can. It's probably not a bad idea. But what about Patty and Tommy? That's the other ugly guy next to you there, Patty. Who grew his beard back? Can we all just take a minute and thank Tommy for bringing the beard back? Thank you.
Yes, yes.
We almost banned him from the group, but he repented, if you will. Anyway,
I had a weak moment in a period of high humidity.
We understand. We've been there. But
but then I found out that my superpowers were gone, so I had to grow it back.
There you are. How about you guys? Did you were you doing homesteading as it were with the kids growing up and using anything off the farm meat wise, putting it on the table, and how the family dealt with that?
Yeah, we our first, I guess, experience of doing that is that when we lived in Louisiana, we got some meat chickens from LSU, I believe, and we raised them, and we got them for the purpose of killing them and put them in the freezer, and we did that, and the kids knew that's what we were doing it for. We also, once we moved to Mississippi, we've raised rabbits for the purpose of meat. That was not an issue, but we had one chick that we raised from when it came out the shell. We were raising a chick, and it stayed inside. It turned out to be a rooster. It stayed inside till it was old enough to go outside. We put it outside, and I mean, it was a pet chicken, and I mean, after we put it outside, it became just a chicken, a rooster, because, it didn't come up to us or anything like that. No big deal. Well, it came time that we needed to kill off some turkeys because we had too many, and we needed to kill off some roosters. So Tommy and me and I guess my oldest son was out there, and they were doing the killing, and I was stringing them up and helping gut them and doing all the gross stuff and everything, and out walks my youngest daughter, and she sees her pet chicken that she's now reclaiming as a pet that hadn't been a pet in many, many months, reclaiming her dead rooster as her pet. And we had a problem there for a little while. She didn't want to eat anything, any chicken or turkey after that, but she got over it. But it was kind of hard. It was hard on her, but it was a pet early on. But I don't know. She just had it in her mind. So that was one issue we had to deal with.
We had a second episode that is one of Patty's favorite stories where, I had become accustomed to dispatching chickens and turkeys by the old wringing the neck method, because it's fairly humane. They don't feel pain very, very long. And we had gotten some Muscovy ducks. And when time came to slaughter a big Muscovy duck, like an idiot, not realizing that their necks are like a 4-inch PVC pipe, I grabbed it and started slinging it around. And he's thinking, "What are you doing? Why are you doing it?" I mean, it didn't even injure, it didn't even bother him. And so I don't know how long that duck and I fought in the backyard of my house. And in that house, we had a big picture window on the back, and it was low to the ground. And Corey was how old?
2 or 3.
I'll never forget. Corey was 2 or 3 years old, and I guess he was, I don't know if he could reach the window or he was on something or what. But the horror on that little boy's face as his dad is out here in mortal combat with this Muscovy duck. And this thing looked like it had the devil in it. I mean,
yeah, he was a possessed duck. And some of the neighborhood kids was there, too.
Oh, that's right. It wasn't just our kids. So I'm traumatizing all the neighborhood kids.
They have therapy now.
I've got the duck. I'm holding this duck head down on the ground, and he's looking up at me with one eye going, and I'm looking up at the window at my horrified kids, and Patty's in there, and I'm mouthing to her, "Get a knife! Get a knife!" So then I had to,
It was funny.
Yeah, it wasn't funny at the time. It's funny now, but it wasn't funny at the time.
I could just
Tommy
see
said,
you cut the head off in front of the kids.
Well, I tell you, Patty, I think got him away from the window when I got ready to do the deed. But I will add this: that duck was delicious.
Yes. But Tommy had that duck on the ground, and he's like, he's looking at me. He's looking at me.
Yeah, I was telling he's looking at me. I mean.
Okay, guys. We are quickly running up on our 1 hour, and before we get too far into this, Tommy, this is a lot less time than I wanted to give you, but 5 minutes, sir. 5 minutes to talk about pigs. Never mind. Patty just said it all. Patty said it all. Never mind.
I almost don't even want to start with only 5 minutes. No,
I'm timing him.
She's timing me. Well, pigs are great on the homestead. Jared's already, or no, Pepper already mentioned one of the reasons why is because they're great little rototillers.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got a garden plot, they're awesome to put into a garden area once the harvest is complete. Once you've gotten everything out that you want, our process is we put our goats and let the cow go in there first. They get all the big stuff, and then you turn the pigs in. Now, if you confine them in there, keep in mind you have to supplement them because they're not. Maybe the first couple of days they'll get all the sustenance they need, but as they begin to do their job, you'll have to supplement their daily intake during this period. But listen to me, they will get every blade of grass, every grass root out of that garden plot. The one time that we've done that with the pigs we had previously, it was late into the next, not planting, I keep wanting to say planting.
It was at the end of the harvest.
It was at the end of the following harvest before grass started appearing again in that garden spot. So anyway, I'm not going to ramble because I've got limited time. But I'm very excited. Go to my YouTube channel. You'll see my new pigs. We're raising American guinea hogs. I've got plans that it's probably months away from completion, so don't be sitting by your laptop. But I have plans on compiling a video about American guinea hogs and their significance in American history, American homesteading history. But just suffice it to say, they're a smaller breed. At 2 years old, they're only 200 pounds, give or take. And of course, the only ones that'll reach 2 years old will be our breeding animals. They're docile. I've read story after story and heard from person after person who can actually be in there with the sow when she's farrowing, when she's having her babies. Which, if you know anything about pigs, that's unusual. Most breeds of pigs, the mama will rip you to shreds. It's not uncommon for the boar to stay with the sow during farrowing, and they tend to take care of the babies, protect the babies, rather than want to eat them. Doesn't mean you have to be. Don't mean you can be stupid. You have to be careful. These animals, even at 200 pounds, is a large animal, and don't let even though they spend most of their time lumbering around at a calm pace, they can be lightning fast. So anyway, maybe we'll do another session one time just on pigs, so I can really get my fix and talk about my pigs. But go to my YouTube channel and you can see more about our pigs. How'd I do?
If you do that, I get to have an entire session on raw milk where I can rant on raw milk.
Fair enough.
You can do that. Hey, but I'm going to claim the remainder of my time to go back and tell you about why that goat milk tastes bad in the grocery store. This is actually very important information for anybody who's considering adding goats to their homestead. You need to know that there's a handful of dairy goat breeds. I'm talking about dairy goats. If you want meat goats, there's boar and maybe one or two others and a couple of crosses. But as far as dairy goats are concerned, there's Nubian, Toggenburg, Oberhasli, Saanen, La Mancha,
Alpine.
A Nigerian dwarf classifies as a dairy goat breed. Here's a general rule of thumb. A general rule of thumb is that dairy goats, the flavor of their milk is susceptible to environmental influences. And almost all of those breeds, that actually includes odors in the air. If there are strong odors in the air where they live, it may flavor their milk. That's what happened with that. Once we had goats on our property, and I knew what a male goat, what a buck smelled like, I knew what I had tasted in that milk in that grocery store.
The buck smell.
Milk tasted like a buck smells. But here's the final thing. Nubians, for some reason, Nubian dairy goats are not as susceptible as the other breeds to environmental influences. They will not, the flavor of their milk will not be affected by odors in the air. So we went with Nubians.
Well, you say that, and now I wonder, we've got a mutt of a goat. I don't even know what she's got all mixed in her, and maybe she's got more Nubian than, and I'm going to show my ignorance here, but the Nubians have the floppy ears. Is that easy way to say the Nubian. So I
Yes,
don't think.
they're known for the long floppy ears and what's described as a Roman nose. I
Mhm.
don't know why it's called Roman, but it's
I think
a long nose.
I think ours is actually an Alpine mix. But I say that to mention that there's been 2 times in the 2 years that we've been milking her that I've ever noticed her milk change flavor, and I have always thought that it tasted like a grass. It tasted like like I had just grabbed a weed and shoved it in my mouth. Like she had got a hold of something that transferred over into her milk. Yet I have a Kiko, I think is the breed that he is, stud that is only 15 feet from her. And if you get up on him, if you were to pet him with your hands, you would be washing your hands for the next 20 minutes trying to get the smell off your hands. But he does not affect her milk. So, I mean, I hear where you're coming from, but I think at the same time, like you say, it's a general rule of thumb. It's not going to apply to every goat out there.
No,
I'm gonna
that's
bring
right.
some.
It's a general rule of it's a general rule of thumb. I've seen your goat. I think your goat has some Nubian in it. I don't know how much. I don't know if that's the reason why hers is not flavored. But again, it's just a general rule. It doesn't mean that every goat's going to be that way.
I'm going to bring some sanity to this goat fest right now. For all of you normal people out there watching this who are thinking, goat milk, no. What you want to do, go find you a local dairy that has Jersey. If you've never had Jersey milk, you've never actually had good cow milk. Our vet said that his dad said that the best way to have a farm is you have 2 cows. You've got Holstein, the black and white cow, the Chick-fil-A cow. That's the milk that's in every grocery store in America. You get a Holstein milk and a Jersey. You drink the Jersey milk and use the Holstein milk to wash your dishes with, because it's basically water. If you've never had Jersey milk, go find you a local dairy. They're basically small dairies that use Jersey because of production. And anyway, find you a Jersey dairy, have some Jersey milk. You've never had milk unless you've had Jersey milk. And if you have one, I doubt you'll ever get a goat.
All right, Pepper.
No, that's not true because we've got Jersey and drink its milk and also have goats. So, but he's right about the Jersey milk. It is.
It's great.
He's right about the
Well,
Jersey
we started
milk.
with goats. We started with goats, but it is nice to have the goats to be able to still keep having milk when you dry your Jersey up for her next calving. So that is a good plus.
Pepper,
But he's right, folks. The Jersey milk is fantastic.
Yes.
take a couple minutes, Pepper, and brag about whatever critter you've got on your property that you're most glad that you've got there, or that you would recommend for someone to definitely get into.
Well, we have fallen in love with our jerseys. I never imagined that I could fall in love with taking care of animals as much as I have our 2 Jersey cows. Up until last year, I was all tomatoes. I could care less about animals. I didn't have time for it. And then we get Mo, and then we got Doe, and these cows are just the sweetest things. They have personality. I told my wife, we were out back in February or March, we're outside in our pajamas at midnight watching our cows graze. And, it's just such a calming thing. And you think, oh, well, you've got a dairy cow, you got to be there twice a day. It's not a big deal. You brush your teeth twice a day. You do all kinds of things. It's not that difficult to milk them. It takes about 10 minutes, actually, to do the milking. It takes about 15 minutes to do the cleanup. But we've got some friends that come in and will milk for us, so we can still go and take a weekend off here and there. It's not a big deal. But a lot of these people that we give our milk away to or live in the area and are I guess, similarly minded country people who aren't scared of coming and taking care of cows. So even if you have a small property, I told someone the other day, if you've got your average suburban yard, you can have a Dexter cow. Cows are placid, they're easy to get along with. Dairy cows, don't get a Jersey bull. I've heard that they're just as mean as can be and will kill you. But as far as an animal that we had just fallen in love with, I'd have, my wife's not watching, I would have 10 more if I could, and she's not going to watch this video. So actually we're thinking about going and getting, I'm not going and getting some more, but Jersey cows are an easy way to get into it. If you're not interested in getting them maybe a gallon a day, don't even bother feeding them. We give ours 20 pounds of grain a day. I actually did the math on it. We get 4 gallons of milk out of Doe, and we're giving her 20 pounds of grain a day. We're spending $5 a day to get 4 gallons of milk. It works out to about $1.25 a day in grain. Add in, $200 a year for vet bills, and we're getting our milk for $1.50 a gallon, and it's better than anything you'll ever get at the grocery store. You can't beat that.
One thing I wanted to ask you guys, I've never raised cow. I've never had raw cow milk. I'm not opposed to it. I just never have. Is it just a simple matter of you milk the cow the night or morning and you want some milk later, you're just going to go into the refrigerator and shake it up a little bit before you drink it? Or how do you reconstitute the two different, the cream and the whey back together before you start slugging it back?
Well, we skim ours off because we use the cream to make butter and ice cream and all manner of things. So we drink skim milk, but that's only because we have plans for the cream. If I were to shake this up, cream would get I wish I hadn't done that. The cream would get rehomogenized, and my sons, one of my sons can't stand seeing little clumps of cream float at the top, so he shakes it up really well before he drinks it. But we leave it 24 hours in the fridge, and the cream rises, we skim it off, and we're good to go.
Yeah, and we do that too. We skim it off too. But if we're not for some reason going to skim it off, if we want, because we don't skim it off of every batch because we want to drink. We like the taste and the flavor of the full whole milk. We put ours in wide mouth pitchers so that all you got to do is stick a utensil down in there and stir it up real good to get it mixed back up. And then make sure you lick the spoon. But don't put it back.
And my neighbor across the street.
Go ahead.
My neighbor across the street drinks skim milk, and so that's what he gets all of our skim milk. They drink a lot of milk, so that's what we do with our skim milk.
My wife went to Walmart and bought one of those pitchers with a little plunger that stirs up inside, and so that's what the boys use to remix their milk with. They just give it a couple plunges and it remixes in, 10 seconds or less, and you've got rehomogenized milk.
All right, well, for my 2 cents, I would say if you're just getting into homesteading and you want something, I would go with the poultry as well, either chickens or ducks. And if you're going to go with ducks, I like the Muscovy ducks. And in some places, Muscovy are considered a nuisance duck, and it's kind of a silly thing to even think about. Why would I raise that? I can go down to the pond and there's dozens of them. But the reason I say that is the housing, the feed, the water, all those are so much smaller. You can, if you just wanted 3 hens to lay eggs, it takes very minimal for you to start with. And definitely, if you go with the chickens, go with a dual purpose, one that you could enjoy the eggs, and either when that hen stops producing, or if you decide to incubate them, or you get a rooster and they go broody, whatever, and you have more chicks, and you can turn around and then eat the chicken. So I think starting off with a poultry is a good thing, and I definitely agree with Tommy that the Muscovy duck, if you ever actually have Muscovy duck meat, you'd just be amazed that came out of a duck. So
can you talk about that for a second? Because the only duck I've ever had in my life was in a turducken, and my wife and I were eating this thing and thought, what is this horrible flavor in here? And then that's duck. If you never had duck, you might not like it. People either like it or hate it. But you have said that Muscovy is not like regular duck. It tastes more like beef or something.
Well,
yeah. It's a red meat.
Mm-hmm. Well, I tell you what, Tommy, you talk about that for a minute, and I'll be right back.
Okay. Yeah, it's in fact, in my early reading, Pepper, I found that scientifically or technically a Muscovy is not a true duck, but they call it a duck because they don't know what else to call it. But it roosts. It's got claws. But for the purposes of this discussion, it's red meat. Mm-hmm. And you can, in fact, we did this one time, still in Louisiana. Patty took the breast. They have a huge breast, and Patty took the breast and prepared it just like she would a venison roast. And I had some of the guys I was working with. It was a holiday, I think. They came over and had a meal with us, and we didn't tell them what it was, and until the end. And nobody knew that it was. Everybody assumed it was deer meat. Mm-hmm. And so if you prepare it like a roast, it tastes like a roast. We haven't tried this yet, but so I'm told is that you can actually cure it, and it's the words in the book were it's indistinguishable from ham.
Yeah.
It's just unique properties in the meat.
for me, who probably who doesn't like duck, doesn't like the flavor of that wild duck.
Mhm.
You're saying that odds are I would not be I would enjoy the Muscovy duck.
I think you
That's
would.
correct. And I'm going to tell you this, Pepper. My son went duck hunting with my brother-in-law one time, and he brought me home a bunch of ducks, and I was so excited for the meat and everything. But after I tasted one, I told him to never bring another duck back home. They were awful. I did not like them. It don't even taste the same. I'm telling you, if you've had deer roast, it you would not know the difference. It doesn't taste fishy or anything like that.
Now, in fairness, I'm told that wood duck is also good because they don't eat the fish that mallards or whatever eat. They eat acorns and things like that. So, but I don't know. I've never, to my knowledge, never tried one.
So I'm going to take the ultimate risk and try to put something on camera that I haven't tested before. So it's probably not going to show up very well. But this right here is 1/2 of a Muscovy duck, and that's easily an entire dinner for my 7-member family. And here's the other half of that same duck. So I mean, I can see it on mine. I don't know how well it's showing up to everybody else.
It shows up real good.
A red meat.
How old was that?
Yeah, we can see it.
How
I would
long
say
did it take to get to that?
that's probably an 8-month-old duck. That was one of our very first ones. So, but yeah, I think it tastes great. I mean, we had one over the weekend that was just prepared in a crock pot. It was just some seasoning, half of a duck, and some potatoes and carrots. And if you didn't tell anybody, they would have thought they were eating roast beef. So,
I'm actually really considering getting ducks for my high tunnel to put in there for the wintertime to eat the insects. I was told that ducks, because they don't have claws, won't scratch up and damage the roots like a chicken would. But if you're saying Muscovies have claws, so maybe that's...
They have claws, but they don't scratch at the ground. I've never seen my ducks scratch up the ground.
Okay.
Yeah, they've got claws, and they'll scratch you up. But that's right. They don't scratch like a chicken or a turkey does.
Okay.
All right. Well, before I try to shut everything down, do either Tommy and Patty have anything that you'd like to say before we close it up here?
Okay.
Can I talk more about pigs?
All right. Tommy wants y'all to know, get pigs and get the American guinea hog because it is a heritage pig and it's the right thing to do. So that's what Tommy wants you to know. We'll have an hour-long episode about that in, I don't know, November for Thanksgiving or something.
Don't think just because you've got a small place you can't have a pig or two. Depends on the rules, the local rules where you live. But if you live out in an unincorporated area, consider it.
But if
I did want to add that.
Go ahead, Patty.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did want to add. I was thinking about earlier that a lot of people that live in subdivisions or in the city may think they can't have any kind of livestock, but when we lived in the city of Baker, we had two dairy goats there, and we had just 3 acres, and it was legal for us. And we were also able to have chickens. And I know now, we don't live in the city now, but in the city that's close to us, it is legal for them to have 3 hens in the backyard inside the city limits. So I just want to encourage people that may live in the city and would enjoy or would like to have some of these animals to check your city ordinances, because it may be possible for you to have a few livestock.
Now, one caveat to Tommy's statement earlier, it doesn't matter how small your property is, you can keep a pig, but if you get a pig that is too small, it might end up inside the house. So be careful on that.
Well, ours is back out with the other ones.
Good job, Patty.
We thought no, it wasn't that. It was my decision. I mean, Pee-wee just, he's an outside pig, and he's doing okay. My main deal was to protect him. And for those of you that don't know, go to my YouTube channel. You'll see Pee-wee. He's probably a dwarf, not just a runt. He's older than any of the other pigs we have, and he's a third of their size. And I was concerned that they were going to torture him, but he's doing okay. He's doing okay out there.
All right, Pepper, anything you'd like to share with us before we close out?
Well, I would just encourage anybody out there, along with Tommy, get some animal. You'll find joy in raising it that you never knew was missing from your life. But I'd also encourage you, go out there and find a small local dairy, and if you can, uh, drink raw milk. There's a whole rant that I'll go on to. Maybe we'll have to schedule for December at this point. But drink the raw milk if you can. There's all manner of health benefits. There are no health downsides to it. If the person is, as long as they're not milking in muck and mire. Let me tell you what. I visited a dairy. I will never drink store-bought milk again just because of the unsanitary conditions I saw at that dairy. We're not going to go into that right now, but anyway, if you can find it in your area, drink raw milk. There's all kind of websites you can go to that show the different laws in different states. I know in the state of Mississippi it is illegal to sell raw cow milk. You can sell raw goat milk as long as you have 9 goats or less. So I have to explain that. But if you can find it, find a local dairy that sells Jersey milk raw if you can get it, and just support those guys.
All right, and I'll expand on support those guys by closing out and saying, this episode was on critter chatter, so we're talking about having animals, but as we close it out, I want to encourage everybody to go out there and support your local farmers and producers, even if for some reason you feel like you might not be ready to buy anything, or you are able to produce all of your own products. Get out there to the farmers market and make a showing and support these people. From what I have read, I can tell you locally the expansion, the explosion that I have seen in our farmers market, but from what I understand, that is taking place throughout the country and perhaps throughout the world. So take the time to go out there and eat fresh, buy local, and do all those great things. And we're way out of time, so if you want to visit our Facebook channel, I've got a little funny story on there about our experience at the farmers market here locally. So join us next month in August. We are going to start talking about preserving your food so that we can get some information out to you either at or before harvest time. And if you have any questions or comments that you'd like us to field in that episode, be on the lookout for the Google Plus event or the Facebook event, and you can ask your questions in there, and we'll prepare our answers as best as we can before the show starts. So thank you all for participating with us and following along, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Ciao.